Welcome everyone again, and thank you for joining our BonBillo Spotlight session. We are spotlighting Blitz today, and we are super excited to speak with Saivya Chauhan, who is the founder and CEO at Blitz, which is Southeast Asia's leading and fastest growing EV enabler platform. Saivya started his career at Hyperloop and has a background in mechanical engineering. And today he's building Indonesia's largest EV ecosystem through Blitz Electric Mobility, enabling gig workers to own EVs and boost their incomes, which is amazing. Hats off, Saivya. Blitz powers less than 60 minutes deliveries, which is unheard of in Indonesia, with over 11 million deliveries already completed and more than 18 million kgs of CO2 emissions reduced. So in today's session, we will dive into how they made it all possible, including all the pitfalls, learnings, behind the scenes stories with Savya and Helen. And we'll mainly speak across three core areas in today's session. First is the fundraising, wherein we would like to explore what exactly worked for Blitz and if there are any repeatable strategies that we all can learn from. Second, we'll also dive into growth and partnership strategies to see what is driving Blitz's revenue and over time how the sales strategies has evolved. Finally, we'll also dive into impact to understand how Blitz tracks and drives on ground real social and environmental impact. And we would also like to delve a bit deeper into Savya's experience to being a part of NVIDIA Accelerator and how it has helped Blitz excel in its journey. So we have got a lot of grounds to cover in this session. So stay tuned till the end, I request everyone. And feel free to drop your questions in the chat throughout the session. We'll try to take them as we go or towards the end. And yes, with that, Savya, I would like to hand over to you. We'd love for you to kick things off by telling us a bit more about Blitz, your journey building it, and some pitfalls that you encountered, and some learnings from which we all can learn. So over to you, Savya.
Thank you so much, guys, for organizing this. And thanks, everybody, for finding time in their schedule to actually want to attend and learn about what we're building here. I think you've already covered the what we're building here part pretty well. Essentially, in a nutshell, we enable other brands to do 60-minute deliveries. So whether it's a food and beverage company, whether it's an e-commerce company or a medicine company, if they work with us, we can integrate with them, and then overnight, these companies have access to our fleets, our tech, and our riders, and they're able to do less than 1 hour deliveries, as you can see behind my background, and we call that essentially instant. I've been building this for the last 6 years, but I would say the company saw real traction on year 3 onwards. And year 3 to 6, that's really what I would classify as the age of this company, because that's when we started that's when we found product market fit. That's when we started generating revenue. And that's when the bulk of the team was also hired. I'll keep it short at that as a brief intro.
Savya, we would actually love to hear how it all started for Blitz, what inspired you to start Blitz, for everybody to get a sense of how exactly Blitz was born.
For sure. So the initial idea for the company was only EV based. I wanted to launch EVs for tourism, and the word for that is actually ride sharing. So these are shareable electric scooters, electric cars, electric bikes, which you see on the streets of San Francisco. That was what the idea was in college when I started this. I started this company 6.5 years ago. I had the idea 7 years ago when I was in my final year, and then I decided to work on it essentially immediately after college. The first 3 years, the first 7 to 9 months proved to be quite critical because it was right before COVID started. And so I actually I had no idea how a company would be built. So I got engrossed in just reading a lot. And I read a lot about how other folks had built their companies. I started reading about Airbnb and Uber and learned what an investor was. I read Guy Kawasaki's books, and I was engrossed with how over the top everyone had made entrepreneurship scene. And I actually got infected with that. Then went on Shark Tank, a local Shark Tank, and then I raised some capital there, which kind of did not really help in the whole glamour of things because it was literally happening according to the books. The issue came, I had now a lot of money in our bank account, and it's still just me, and then really no clear business plan, right? But anyways, we still charged ahead. COVID hit, and then immediately decided to put a pause on everything because tourism was down, that it was going to be impossible to launch a sharing mobility product when nobody is even able to go outside their house, let alone share products together. So what I decided to do was I basically returned all that money back to the judges that had backed me from that Shark Tank. It was about $400,000. And then during COVID, that was the first pivot that we had, which is, okay, can we take this from tourism and EVs to something else? And through my interviews with drivers, through my interviews with the customer, I realized that gig workers were being taken advantage of during COVID. They were not earning enough. They were basically working really long hours and just barely making ends meet. So then the idea pivoted to, can we become some kind of a logistic company which allows us to control these drivers, give them more income, while still utilize all these EVs that I have in my warehouse, which we had already bought for our previous before the pivot. And that almost worked. And then the company then went through 2 or 3 more pivots until 2022, which was again why I say the company is really 3 years old, but my journey has been now close to 7 years old, right? To summarize everything in there, right? Don't get fooled by the glamour of entrepreneurship as it's seen. But even then, there are a couple of things that are still true, which is you need to do real customer interviews and understand what your customer really wants, because the product I was building was not what ended up becoming what we are building today. And that only happened because customers gave us good feedback and we changed the product and molded the product according to the requirement as opposed to what I wanted the product to be.
Awesome. So you actually touched upon a very key point when you say that you have to speak to customers, get the feedback, and then build your product. And in your journey, you said that you went through multiple pivots, spoke with multiple customers, and ultimately reached your question. Where did you raise the capital for physical EVs when you gave back the 400K?
This was from Shark Tank Copycat. Actually, they never got the rights to the name, so they called it Horses Stable. So we got 400K in a convertible note, of which 50K I used up. I used it to go to China, build a supply chain, and it was just still me at that point. So I didn't know much, but what I did know is when COVID hit and everything was crashing, I didn't want to have $400,000 in debt. And so I returned back the remaining 350, which these investors took happily, and nothing was on my head anymore. Because in a time where the economy is basically crashing, I think people were just happy to get anything back. So we used the 50K to procure some assets, but we returned 90% of it back.